Hello friends and welcome to TNT in downtown Sydney today doing our program. It's early in the morning but the traffic's already underway and we've found a nice little cafe to sit and do the program. There will be noise, there will be coffee machines, but I suppose you're used to expecting that on TNT. Quick weather report, we've got overcast skies heading for a top of about 22 degrees, currently 19, now you know. And I'll be in Sydney for the next 3 or 4 days, but we won't be seeing much of the Harbour Bridge or the Opera House. There's other bloggers that do that stuff much better than me. We're still bringing you all the Thai news, and we've got some big stories to cover today. Thank you for joining us on the program, and it will be noisy today, not just my voice, but a whole lot of other voices in here. I'm in Pete's Artisan Bread and Cafe in downtown Bexley, which is sort of a southwest suburb just out of Sydney, not too far from the Mascot Airport. Why am I here? Well, none of your business, but that's where I am this morning. Actually, a delightful little cafe and a very hearty breakfast. So thank you very much to Pete and everybody else. They're wondering what the hell I'm doing here. So am I, actually. But it's great to have you with us, and if you do get a moment, please subscribe to the channel. I mean, that helps me more than anything you could possibly imagine by spreading the good word. So we are bringing you up to date with things happening around Thailand, and we'll be covering a little bit later the flood situation in Phuket. I've got some quite big surprises there. Also, the latest in the Cannabis Act and exactly what's happening on that. But we'll start with some other news covering the, fallout of the Baht falling to an all-time low, certainly since the financial crisis back in 1997. The program's TNT. I'm Tim Newton, and I'm very grateful for you tuning in. I do have to start today by saying that I went to the very worst Chinese restaurant in my life last night. I wandered past and I thought, oh, that looks sort of nice. I haven't had Chinese for a while. I mean, every single Australian town has got a Chinese restaurant in it, and I do enjoy Chinese food, but this was awful. I think it was called the Fuck You Dragon or something like that, but anyway, I probably couldn't recommend it. Dreadful meal. Let's start by the Thai Baht story. This from the Bangkok Post says that the weak Baht aids tourism resurgence and growth, according to ARCOM. The government's considering some targeted stimulus by year end. That is a main road out there, by the way. I think actually it's the Princess Highway. No, it's not the Princess Highway. It's a busy road anyway, and it is peak hour, so you will see trucks and stuff zooming past. We spoke yesterday about the government saying, oh, we're going to have all this stimulus, but they haven't actually specified exactly what they're going to be doing. Thailand is value for money, he said, in an interview on the sidelines of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Finance Ministers meeting in Bangkok. Gee, that'd be fun, wouldn't it? He said the Baht's prolonged weakness will surely help get more foreigners back. The weakness in the Baht, in the third paragraph, Southeast Asia's second worst performer this year, may linger through until 2024. His comments suggest that the benefits of a weaker currency outweigh the negatives at the moment for the tourism-reliant economy. That's the thing with a weak currency. There are sort of swings and roundabouts. There are winners and there are losers. Fantastic for exports. And at the end of the day, Thailand is predominantly an export-driven economy. Down the bottom there, gross domestic product is seen to rise 3.7% next year, faster than the 3 to 3.5% pace projected for 2022, thanks to the return of foreign visitors. Well, yes, the tourism economy has started again, although we're still lingering around at the 20% mark. In comparison to what it was like in 2019. So I appreciate the TAT and the tourism czars talking up the tourism situation, and we do invite people who are able to come back to Thailand at the moment. Perhaps not Phuket today or tomorrow, but it will improve, I'm sure. But coming back to Thailand is definitely on the cards for those people who can afford the flights. But the fact is, I mean, the reality is we're still only at around 20% of the tourist numbers we had back in 2019. He said the country's seeing more visitors from neighbouring countries as well as India and the Middle East to help offset the absence of Chinese nationals. Before the coronavirus, Chinese nationals accounted for almost 30% of overseas visitors. Well, that's true. Not only the Chinese visitors, of course, Russians were quite predominant as well, up to some 10% in the years leading up to 2019. So without the Chinese or the Russians, we're certainly deficit of a lot of the traditional large tourist numbers that used to come to Thailand. The fourth paragraph there, while a net oil importer, the country is a food exporter and doesn't have to worry about food security unlike other nations. And down the bottom there, many businesses in Thailand are happy with the baht's weakness, and of course there'd be many businesses that aren't happy. As I said, swings and roundabouts. For me, from Google, for example, where I do this program, they pay me in US dollars, so I suppose it's good for me, but of course it's not going to be good for everyone. You are watching TNT. We're going to be talking about the floods in Phuket in just a moment. And to the people who say we're sick of hearing about floods and we're sick about hearing about Phuket, well, Phuket is such a big driver of the tourism economy in Thailand. It's a big island, it also happens to be my home, so we will be talking about that next on TNT. Thanks for joining us on Tim Newton today and acknowledging that there have been floods right around the country, and they're still being mopped up, and a lot of people have lost their homes and their belongings. And we'll certainly try and keep you up to date with the numbers and the clean-up activities. I'm sort of thinking there's going to be some big national fundraiser, and we might be involved in that for not only Phuket victims but also victims around the country. So watch this space, we'll get to that. But starting our coverage down in Phuket, and the Bangkok Post reporting that flooding, mudslides, blackouts in Phuket. Phuket-go.com saying that Phuket rain warning extended to Saturday, a risk of more floods. They've also got an update, Phuket flood relief, more rain, more help needed. And we'll be giving you some information about how you could be able to help, but you've probably got to be in Phuket. They're not after cash at the moment, they're after goods and stuff that can actually be used right now. Another headline from Thai PBS World saying downtown Phuket flooded again, and yes, there has been more flooding again in Phuket town and old Phuket town on the opposite side of Patong. The Phuket News.com says that Phuket town braces for floods as the Bang Yai nears overflow. That's the main canal that flows through Phuket town, and it's taking rain from the middle of the island out into the east side, into Phang Nga Bay, and that canal looks like it's going to be overflowing again. Some shots here from old Phuket town, or just on the corner of it. Some predominant buildings I'm sure you've seen before, but probably never seen them like this. And we can see the officials doing a great job. This is a sight seen by many people around Phuket at the moment, with barriers and officials trying to block off roads and steer people away from the floods. And here we've got officials delivering water. They're surveying the situation. So the situation right around parts of Phuket is quite dire. And it leads us to this shot, which I think will surprise people if you haven't already seen it. This is part of the road from Katu to Patong. It's on the main road that goes up the hill on the first main turn. So as you're going up Patong Hill on your way to Patong, you come to that first hairpin curve. That is what has happened. The road, or part of the road, has completely vanished. Now, worse than that, you can have a look there at what's under that road. And it's basically just sand. I mean, there's really no construction there except for a great big thick piece of tar. So that road has now been closed. They were even, as you can see in the photo, they were allowing motorbikes and some cars down the road using one of the lanes. but now they've decided to close that. It was closed around about 5 p.m. last night, I understand. But that is the main road that feeds just about all the traffic into Patong. Now, like if you're coming from the airport, you'd be going over Patong Hill. Now, there is another route coming in from Kamala, but that's also been blocked from time to time over the past 3 or 4 days with landslides. And if they're wanting to get all the traffic into Patong through Kamala and Surin and around the west coast, that's going to cause its own problems. And they are expecting some more landslides along that road, as many parts of the island seem to be slipping and moving with all this rain. And the amount of rain they've had, please note this, up to last Sunday morning, they'd had double the amount of the average rain in October already. So that's how heavy the rain has been and why such a focus is on this holiday island at the moment, which is being progressively sort of cut off by all the landslides and the rains and the floods. More of these photos. I mean, you can see there that that road has just completely vanished, and obviously a perilous situation. The rest of the road could move pretty soon. Here we can see in video a part of the road collapsing, and it really only leaves one lane there, and there's no reason why the rest of that shouldn't be collapsing anytime soon. So a particularly bad situation for Patong, being sort of cut off progressively by landslides and the destruction of some of the roads. Also, this is the bypass road, which is one of the main arteries, and on your way to Patong you'd go along the bypass road. Opposite the PTT station, I'm told, this is a landslide which is apparently blocked at least one lane on the road. It's now been cleared because they do have to get traffic through this road at some stage. So if you are making your way around Phuket, be aware that there is quite a lot of carnage. There is flooding, and there's also these landslides which are unpredictable. So please do your best to help out the emergency services and obey the restrictions. And if you don't need to travel at the moment, I suppose the best thing to do, if you can, is wait it out at home. To a slightly strange story now, moving away from the floods, and Bangkok Post reporting that 20 armed men overpower cops in a botched drug sting. Oh dear. So we're going to go through this in forensic detail because it's quite interesting. About 20 armed men overpowered 6 drug enforcement officers whose 2-stage sting operation started well but later ended with their abduction and the loss of the seized drugs. On Monday night, 6 officers lured a drug suspect from Chiang Rai into selling 10 packs of methamphetamine pills. So that's how it started. The suspect was arrested and then assigned to order 8 kilograms of crystal meth from a man identified only as Dam, which is a Thai word for black. 8 kilograms of crystal meth ice, that's a lot of ice. They planned to receive the ice at an intersection. At the meeting point, 2 pickup trucks and 2 cars drove up, surrounded the officer's compact car. About 20 men, brandishing pistols and one with an assault rifle, jumped out of the vehicles. They ordered the officers to take off their shirts and surrender their guns. It gets better. Claiming to be police officers from the Ratapun station, the assailants then forced the 5 enforcement officers onto one of their trucks and made them get out about 50 metres away. The armed men then fled the scene, taking the officers' compact car with them. The vehicle contained 10 packs of speed pills, along with the cops' guns and mobile phone. Now, the only upside for the police is that the original man that they arrested was still in the car. So, yeah, a botched sting there from the police, a rather odd story. And now to update on the Cannabis Bill, this story from Thai PBS World. Cannabis Bill addresses all concerns raised by the Democrats and Thai parties. So this is a charm offensive from Bumjai Thai, who sponsored the bill originally. The story says the Cannabis Bill, which has been reviewed by the House Security Committee, addresses all the concerns raised by both Democrats and Thai parties, according to an MP for the Bumjai Thai. He said the committee had thoroughly reviewed the controversial bill and addressed concerns over the ease of access to cannabis for recreational purposes by youth. The fourth paragraph, Superchai said that the bill had already been submitted to House Speaker Chuan Lekpai for inclusion in the agenda for House consideration in its second and final reading. So the question here is whether this particular bill, or the revised bill, can get a hearing in the remaining parliamentary sessions. The final one would have to be, at the latest, March the 23rd next year. So I suppose there's 3 or 4 months for this bill to get a hearing again in Parliament. And down the bottom there, the bill has already passed its first reading in the House, but it was withdrawn with the consent of the majority of MPs before its second and final reading. My gut feeling is that this bill probably won't get up even in its second reading, that there's a majority of MPs who, for probably mostly political reasons, will try to stymie the progress of the Cannabis Bill, leaving a whole lot of shops and investors into cannabis and hemp in a sort of a twilight zone, wondering what on earth is going on. And I couldn't agree with you more. And some good news for flood victims here, if there is any good news for flood victims around Thailand. The Cabinet approves tax measures to help flood victims, and here's a list of them. I'll go through some of them. Some of them are a little bit peculiar. Hello to that gentleman behind me watching. Wondering what on earth is he talking about Thailand for? So a maximum of 100,000 baht for house repairs and 30,000 baht for car maintenance to be deducted from taxable income. Tax exemption for compensation received from the government. Donations to state or charitable organisations to help flood victims will be exempt from tax. Materials which are imported to help flood victims will also be exempt from customs duties. The one down the bottom I found particularly interesting. You might be able to explain this for me. It says that financial assistance provided by the Thailand tobacco monopoly for its staff who sustain damage to their houses or other property will be exempt from taxation. Is that a good reason to be smoking? I'm not exactly sure. Anyway, the government, rather than giving out specific donations at this time, they're giving some tax relief to Thai people who have been caught in the floods. I really feel like I'd love to interview him, but I won't. Okay, that is the end of our program today. I'm sorry for the extraneous noise here at Pete's Artisan Bakery in Bexley, which serves, as you can see, very fine coffee indeed. And just a warning for people that are coming into Pete's Artisan Bakery, there's a problem with the cash register, so you have to pay cash, just in case you needed to know that. By the way, just remember there is a link in the description for the flood relief that's currently ongoing in Phuket, and we'll do our best to keep you up to date with all the situation there. But a very sorry situation in beautiful tropical Phuket as the floods continue, and they're expecting rain at least until Saturday at this stage. Thanks for watching. It's really great that you've dropped in to say hello again, and please subscribe to the channel if you get an opportunity. I'm going to have a coffee, and we'll see you tomorrow.